Welcome to Mind of the Forest, a podcast of the Louisiana Forestry Association. Hello, I'm your host, Jeff Zeringue. In Mind of the Forest, we talk about forestry and how important it is to have managed forests and the benefits they offer to wildlife and water protection. Those benefits are why the LFA promotes keeping Louisiana's almost 15 million acres of forests as forests. And the forest products industry, which includes forest landowners, loggers, and wood manufacturers such as lumber, paper, and pellet mills, all play an important role in the conservation and management of forests for the important renewable natural resource it is. This episode of Mind of the Forest is sponsored by First South Farm Credit. First South is your premier rural lender. With over 100 years financing timber and agriculture, they have the expertise you're looking for when financing rural property. If you're looking to purchase or refinance land, call your local First South Farm Credit office or find them online at firstsouthland.com. This is episode 55 of Mind of the Forest, and we're talking with Louisiana Forestry Association Executive Director Buck Vandersteen. The Louisiana Legislature wrapped up its 2025 regular session on Thursday, June 12th, and Buck has spent the past 2 months looking out for bills that could affect the forest products industry, whether it was involved landowners or loggers or mills. So now we get a chance to find out how this most recent session went for these folks. Here's Buck Vandersteen. We have with us today Buck Vandersteen. Buck is the Executive Director of the Louisiana Forestry Association. He's also a lobbyist for the organization, and he keeps up with the legislature whenever they are in session, sometimes when they're not. So, Buck, welcome. Glad to have you here again.
Thank you, Jeff. And today is a great day. The legislature has gone home and very eagerly wrapped up sine die at about 3 minutes to 6 p.m. They had to sine die by 6 p.m. So
that was on Thursday, and we're talking today on
Thursday.
Friday morning. So I bet they're relieved to be done, but it seemed like a mad dash. It was a short session, supposed to deal with mostly finance stuff, right? The budget and things like that.
I think short is relative. When you still have introduced over 2,000 pieces of legislation in a 65-day session, not the normal 80-day session, it does fill up agenda. And there was some efforts to allow more legislation being introduced in a 65-day session, and I don't think that that made it through. But it's difficult to follow everything, and that's really why we appreciate everyone that is involved with wanting to know what's going on in policy and reading and talking to people. If they hear something, to let us know, because sometimes there are things that just slip through the cracks that we miss, and we hope that the important things we catch, and that things that we miss don't become important things that we have to fix later on. But the general theme for this session was fix insurance,
which has been, I guess, an ongoing theme for a while now. So what happened on the insurance field?
It really dominated the early part of the session, from the governor right on down. The governor appeared in committees and talked about trying to reduce insurance. Legislators heard from constituents, fix insurance. So several good things happened. Now, there were many bills, but those that we've followed that we think would do the most for us, one is on comparative fault, where in the past, if you were 5% at fault, really, if you were more than 50% at fault, you would be able to get compensation. Now with the passage of this is Miss Chenever's bill, House Bill 431, became signed by the governor already, Act 15, that says if you are more than 51% at fault for an accident, you don't get to claim anything. So comparative fault. Hopefully no one ever has to deal with that, but it is supposed to bring down the medical costs and the awards for when accidents do occur. Another piece of legislation, Louisiana law says that if you're going to operate on the roads, you have insurance.
Right.
And as we all know, there are a lot of people that ignore that. And we pay uninsured motorists insurance. We're paying for those people that are not following the law. Well, Mr. DeWitt, Jason DeWitt from up here in central Louisiana around the Boyce area, produced a legislation also signed by the governor very early on in the session. Act 16 basically said no pay if you don't play. So meaning that you get into an accident and you don't have insurance, your ability to claim on that accident is limited.
Okay.
So very, very good first step. Really thinking, okay, you're supposed to have it. You're supposed to have insurance, and now we've said you're still going to be able to claim a certain amount of money, and I think the ceiling is $100,000. So the most you can claim is $100,000. But why don't you have insurance in the first place? So we're kind of acknowledging it, that it happens, but we're saying if you don't have the insurance, if you get into an accident, your limits of recovery are there. Yeah. So that's important.
Well, the mandatory insurance law has been on the books for 30 years, I think, right? I mean, it's I guess it's fascinating to me to think you've got to change that when the mandate has been for 3 decades. It's strange. Okay. So what else in insurance you were looking at?
Well, another piece of legislation that passed became Act 19 from Representative Shammerhorn, recognizing that commercial motor vehicles that have dashboard cameras, dashboard cameras are really being accepted widely. Insurance companies are requiring it, but even if insurance companies are not requiring it, people are saying, this is helping me do this. Well, Mr. Shammerhorn introduced legislation that was signed by the governor that said if you have dashboard cameras on your commercial vehicles, that you are due a premium decrease by the insurance company. Now, it didn't mandate how much, but any direction on decreasing insurance premium is certainly a move in the right direction.
It would seem that is kind of common sense, because you've had insurance companies already say if you put this little dongle in your car, they can see how you drive, whether you have to brake suddenly or things of that nature. And they offer discounts for regular drivers for that. It would seem for commercial drivers, the video cameras would be really a no-brainer. So that seems to be good legislation that's come through.
And we've heard very positive things about the dashboard cameras, onboard cameras, helping determine who is at fault. Anytime there's an accident, it's always the truck's fault. Always a truck's fault.
Yeah, it seems that way,
until
doesn't it?
Evidence proves otherwise, and having that evidence right there on the spot, where the state trooper can take that clip and just put it into their device and see exactly what happened, really goes a long way in setting the tone for what happens next.
I wonder if that would also lend a hand with any investigation for fraud. I know on social media you can see some of these videos where cars will cut in front of big rigs and they slam on their brakes, and it doesn't seem like it was needed to slam on the brakes. Okay. Again, these are videos that you can see online, and it's not really based on that this where this was and things of that nature. But I guess the hope would be it could.
Absolutely, absolutely. It goes a long way in ascertaining who. And an accident's always the other guy's fault, but when you have visual proof of what goes on, you can start weeding out the perceptions and get down to the actual facts of what's going on. And kind of talking about facts and that another topic that came up a lot is renewable energy, carbon, solar.
Yeah.
Lot of discussion in that, and we'll start with solar panels first. Representative Kimberly Coates passed some legislation. Her House Bill 459, sent to the governor for his signature, deals with solar panels, also wind farms, but particularly solar panels, having plans and permits through the Department of Energy and Conservation for decommissioning those panels when they're done, getting approval from local government before they're installed, and thirdly, establishing buffer zones around rights of way, roadways, residential properties. Could be up to 300 feet of a zone between a residential property and the solar panels, but it also has a natural vegetative buffer in there too. That's something that's maybe an opportunity for people to plant some trees. Along there.
Well, just to be clear, when you're talking solar panels like this, you're talking about specifically solar panel farms, not the ones that folks put in their yards or on their homes for their own individual use, right?
That is correct. This does not apply to residential solar, and I hesitate to use the word farm because I think a farm is someone that's producing food or fiber, not solar panel, a metal solar panel. So I call them just solar panel projects.
Okay.
And they anything more than 75 acres must have a permit from the Department of Energy and Conservation on the batteries that they will put on the property to store that electricity, local government support for all that. Very, very important, good way to get control of the growth of these solar panel projects. Carbon capture and storage, another big issue, highly emotional. People are not really looking at the science, looking at the possible fear, what could go wrong, all kinds of things. But some legislation that passed dealing with carbon capture and storage, Senate Bill 244 by Senator Henskins, was a bill to reauthorize the Department of Natural Resources. It's now the Department of Conservation and Energy. You would think, okay, that's a 1 or 2 page bill. This bill has become a 227 page bill, and it was a train of everything that you could load onto the train leaving the station.
Man.
And it got into carbon, it got into legacy lawsuits, it got into a lot of information. So this is something that I think, hate to use this term, they had to pass it so that we could find out really what was in it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a phrase that hasn't been very comfortable for folks. It has. It's almost cliche, quite frankly, that it's been used so often since the
But the
late
important
aughts.
thing in here for folks too is the state, the legislators, the policymakers understand that carbon capture is something that people have a lot of feelings about. They want to establish the Office of Energy and Conservation as one of the science-based organizations, the permitting organization that makes sure that the public has an opportunity to comment on the projects, help the landowners in securing the rights on their property, the use of eminent domain only in cases where maybe landowners cannot be found, using it then. So being very sensitive to the property rights issues of not taking landowner rights to put a pipeline through to carry carbon to a injection site, and then for injection sites, making sure that landowners are compensated fairly, and that existing mineral owners are involved in the discussion and making sure that those policies, those ownerships of minerals, future ownership of carbon capture and storage conditions, all are working together. And the most important thing is the safety of this, making sure that this is a safe. It's new. It's injection is not new, but taking carbon and putting it in the ground is new.
Yeah.
And even with the federal government, reconciliation on budgeting and this still have provisions in there for carbon capture and storage, even though in some areas of battery-operated vehicles and others, they've taken a less supportive role in providing federal incentives for those projects. The incentives still remain for those industries that when they can be an existing industry, they can be a new industry, capturing that carbon, injecting it into the ground in safe locations is still something that the technology and all is developing.
Yeah, it is curious because I can remember growing up in South Louisiana, injection wells back in the 70s were quite common. And so that technology has been around for a very long time. And as far as the pipelines, you ever looked at a map of pipelines in Louisiana? They don't dot the landscape. Yeah, they're all over. They're all over.
That's right.
But it is new, and it you can understand folks just want to know more about it and be careful or certainly be knowledgeable about what could go through their property. It makes sense.
And that knowledge is something too that the legislature acknowledged that the Office of Conservation and Energy. This is a bill from Senator Reese over there in Vernon Parish that got passed, and that's on to the governor for his signature, basically mandating that they called it substantial consideration by local government, local input into these projects dealing with carbon capture and storage. So recognizing that there has to be a way to get local input. And I think this is good. I think people need to know what is going on in their community. Is it safe? And is all of this going to work together? How's it going to benefit them? How's it going to benefit the community? How's it going to benefit the industry? We need it in forestry because a lot of these new plants that are coming into Louisiana are using the tax incentive to capture carbon as a way to invest in the building of a plant that will produce energy out of using wood. And we need projects that utilize our wood. Good for our landowners, good for our loggers, good for the impact that forestry has in our community. So injection and capture is not a forestry issue, but it affects forestry very much.
So you think Senator Reese's bill came out as a result of the request to have parishes vote whether they want to have those facilities?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Trying to see that utilizing the expertise, getting people communicating, and not just blanketing, say, if someone doesn't like it in a parish, they're going to shut the operation down. Because there's, in terms of property rights, you have a property right to say, I don't want to take my land for a injection well or injection pipeline. There may be another property right that says, I need that ability to inject that carbon or put a pipeline through my property because that helps me keep the value of my property up, and I can do other things to enhance my property with the income that comes from carbon capture and storage. So property is extremely important in Louisiana, but more important is people involvement, people's understanding of what's going on, and the safety of it, and how do we safeguard that and utilize our talents, our resources, and that to make this work. And I think it's exciting to see that I believe this will happen.
Well, I'm sure we'll see much more of carbon capture in the news in the coming months as the policy kind of settles down and the agencies make decisions on exactly what this means. Because, they're the ones that write the regulations, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So the law is passed, but it's still a work in progress.
Yes.
Okay. What else have we been looking out for?
We had a great time at the Capitol in mid-May. I think it was around May the 19th. Where we honored our outstanding logger, Casey Duran of Pollock, Louisiana. He was our outstanding logger that the Louisiana Forestry Association, the Louisiana Logging Council named in 2024. He was awarded a commendation by the House and Senate of Louisiana in a wonderful ceremony at the Capitol, an excellent day, as the landowners, Jackie and Melvin Harvey from St. Francisville area. Their tree farm has been in their family for hundreds of years. I believe it was back in 250, 300 years that
it was back in the 18th century for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, but Melvin would be quick to tell you, that's Jackie's. He supports her fully, and Jackie has much affection to that property. And she's really looking forward to one day seeing it pass on to her son. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. And then something new this year, which we hope will continue on. But no one was more proud of receiving the recognition as being Louisiana's outstanding log truck driver. And this was Mr. Willie. His call sign is Jackrabbit Morgan. And Willie Jackrabbit Morgan was recognized by the House of Representatives for being the best of the logging truck drivers in the state. He's from St. Helena Parish, and just a wonderful family. His wife came with him, and just a wonderful day.
A class act gentleman. He really, I enjoyed meeting him and having a brief conversation with him. Just a class act gentleman, truly.
And this is a good opportunity that there are other people out there, and we don't want them overlooked. So if you have someone that you'd like to nominate as an outstanding logger, outstanding tree farmer, or outstanding log truck driver, now's a good time to send in that nomination, and doesn't have to be lengthy. Just call our office and talk to one of us on staff and say, look, I've got a real good candidate for some of this recognition. It goes an awful long way in letting people know that they're not overlooked, that they're very much a part of our community, our forest community, and without them, we would not be as successful as we are. So,
just to be a little more precise, this is for Louisiana, because we are in Louisiana. And if you want to give us a call, it's 318-443-2558. If you want to send us an email, you can send that to lfa@laforestry.com. What else are we looking at?
Well, and that was basically what we followed.
Yep.
There weren't times that forestry was called to the floor on things, but as we talked in carbon, this discussion did have an impact on us. So
that touches a lot of industries, though. You're talking
absolutely.
statewide, yeah.
But even with 2,000 pieces of legislation, there weren't any fights. There were some hot moments at times.
Yeah.
People may not realize that the legislature is on our computers. They have a website, legis.la.gov. A good way that if you have time, if you're interested in certain pieces of legislation, you can listen in and watch the discussion. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people have many better things to do, but sometimes it is that policy is important. We want people to know that forestry is at the table. We're there. Legislators know that we're there, and we don't always have to be in the forefront of things. Sometimes just being behind and letting people know that we're there and helping and supporting what we're trying to do is the best position for us to take.
Sometimes waiting in the wings is a little beneficial in that you're not really at the forefront, or maybe with a target that could affect you negatively. So that's overall a good thing. I just want to also remind folks that Buck keeps a legislative report whenever there is a session that goes on or something else develops that when they're not in session. You'll keep an eye on that as well. If you would like to receive those legislative reports, you can send an email to LFA@laforestry.com and just ask, hey, please put me on the legislative report, and I'd like to get them.
Sounds good.
Okay.
And thank you for the opportunity to share with our membership and others on what's going on that affects forestry in the state of Louisiana.
Buck Vandersteen, thanks for taking time for us.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Mind of the Forest. This episode was sponsored by First South Farm Credit. First South is your premier rural lender. With over 100 years financing timber and agriculture, they have the expertise you're looking for when financing rural property. If you're looking to purchase or refinance land, call your local First South Farm Credit office, or you can find them online at firstsouthland.com. If you'd like to receive the LFA's legislative report, send us an email to lfa@laforestry.com, and you'll be added to the list, or your email will be added to the list. And you might receive an email request to verify that you want to receive the update, so be on the lookout for that. If you'd like to learn more about sustainable forestry, the LFA and its programs, and how you can be part of an organization that supports landowners, loggers, and the forest products industry in Louisiana, check out our website at laforestry.com. You can also send me comments or suggestions by email at jzeringue@laforestry.com. That's jzeringue@laforestry.com. You can also check out the show notes for our contact information as well. You can subscribe to Mind of the Forest by clicking on the subscribe button on your favorite podcast app. Be sure to tap the notification button as well, so that way you'll know when we drop a new episode each month. Thank you for doing that. We really do appreciate it. And remember, At the Louisiana Forestry Association, we're minding the forest for you.